But really what's going to get you that next role, to get you the job that you're looking for, is how you respond to the rest of the 50 to 55 minutes in this interview that you're going to be a part of. Hello, everybody. Michael Harding here with the Chick-fil-A in Little Rock, Arkansas. My name is Michael, like I mentioned. I'm an owner-operator with Chick-fil-A. And I just want to thank you once again for joining us on our next episode of Memorable in Minutes. Over the past few weeks, we have really unpacked some different aspects of how to answer interview questions. We've gone in length about what we call our pillars mindset of how you tell your individual story. I've even unpacked my 30-second, 2-minute, and 10-minute story to give y'all some examples of how to approach these questions. So if you haven't watched any of those episodes, the first 6 episodes of Memorable in Minutes, I would recommend going back and watching some of that content to really make sure that you're ready going into the interview process. So today we are going to unpack how to answer every other interview question. So we always like to knock it out of the park with the tell me about yourself question. But really what's going to get you that next role, to get you the job that you're looking for, is how you respond to the rest of the 50 to 55 minutes in this interview that you're going to be a part of. So what I like to talk through is the 3-step process. We unpack this in a previous episode where we say step number 1 is BLUF, which is an acronym for bottom line up front. Step number 2 is tell me a story. And step number 3 is summarize about how the answer you gave connects with the story. So today, we're really going to dive deep into that first step of the 3-step process, which is the BLUF mindset. So just a quick recap, bluffing is not lying. I love my acronyms, and I felt like this was a great acronym to remember what we needed to say. But by no means am I saying this is a poker game where you need to lie on your answers. In an interview, being authentic and transparent and honest is always crucial when you're delivering information. So we always have to start there. So the reason why I talked about bottom line up front is I want you to give the actual answer that the person is looking for. Back when I was in college, people used to always tell me that your resume is so important going into a job interview. And they showed us studies of when a recruiter was looking at a resume, that they, on average, spent less than 30 seconds looking over a resume. They would breeze over your name, maybe go to a little bit of your job experience or what degree you got, and see if you had any skills, and they would go on to the next one. What I wanted to get across is that so often I've trained individuals how to interview in the past, and they give me this phenomenal answer to the question, but they give the answer to the question 45 seconds into talking. Versus if you think about this resume example, when you're talking to somebody in an interview and they ask a question, if you don't respond with the actual answer to what's going on, you might actually lose them. They might not grasp what the actual answer to the question is. Because what I've found is that if you give this huge monologue of this story or the situation that you went through, if you're using the STAR method, it might be 45 seconds before you're actually able to give them the answer to the question they asked. And at that point, you might have lost them, you might have bored them, and they don't actually remember the question or the answer to the question they asked. So what I always like to start off with is what I call the BLUF mindset, bottom line up front. And I want to challenge people, answer the question that was asked in less than 10 words. If someone comes up and says, Michael, who is your favorite NFL football player? You're going to hear me say Matt Ryan. You're not going to hear me say that I love the Atlanta Falcons, and growing up, I was huge into Michael Vick, but right now my favorite player is Matt Ryan. You're going to hear me say the bottom line up front that my favorite player is Matt Ryan. Let's bring this to the interview setting to get some specific aspects of what's going on. Michael, what are some of the strengths that you have? Well, some of the strengths that I have are emotional intelligence. Or maybe they'll say, hey, Michael, what are some of the weaknesses that you have? Well, some of the weaknesses that I have are going through in the fine details of certain projects and making sure projects happen on a certain realm. Or someone might say, hey, Michael, what is your definition of leadership? It's like, well, my definition of leadership is 5149. Hey, Michael, what do you love to do on the weekends? Well, I love to hike and kayak. Hey, Michael, how are you developing people within your organization? The way I develop people is I get to know them, and then I find a way to accomplish a goal in the restaurant with things that they're passionate about. So as you can see, I just went through 5 or 6 interview questions and gave you my actual answer. And some of y'all might still be thinking about when I said my leadership principle was 5149. It created a little bit of a, ooh, I want to know more. So we'll unpack some of these specific interview questions in a later video, but I really want you to focus on step number 1, which is bluff. So the way I train people to handle this question is go and find a link of all the interview questions you can find. If you look in the comments below, I'll put my top interview questions that I walk people through in the link below. But go through those questions. Don't try to come up with stories. Don't try to come up with situations and results and what you learn from it. Go through each of those questions and in 10 words or less, answer the question. If you don't know how to answer a question, again, drop it in the comments below or send me a message and I'll help you process through your own story with you. I'd love to do that with you. But step number 1, answer the question that was asked, bottom line up front, in less than 10 words. And that's all I want you to do for this week is just answer the question. Some of the hardest things I have found is it's easy to come up with a story. It's easy to summarize it. But if you don't know who you are and the answers to the questions, things can be difficult. So we'll deliver some more videos in the future that will truly unpack the concept of getting to know yourself and how to answer these questions. But I want you to start off with just taking the list down below in the comment section or in the description down below and answering each of those questions bottom line up front. And then stay tuned next week and we will unpack the stories and how to connect these two things together. Alrighty, that's it for today. Thank you once again for watching our latest episode of Memorable in Minutes, where we start to unpack different aspects of how to interview effectively for that next role that you're looking for. Today, we talked about the bluff method, and we will see you next week. Y'all have an amazing week.